Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the NBAV podcast, your source for NBA fun and excitement, casual conversation about your favorite NBA topics. And we're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to try to, of course, we'll first breeze through last night's NBA action. Today is January 18th, so we'll go through the games that were the night of the 17th. We'll recap those very quickly, and we'll try to talk more about the storylines and big topics going on in the NBA right now. So, first, of course, we have the Timberwolves beating the Pistons. Not going to waste time on that. And then we have the Hawks beating the Magic with a shot at the buzzer, a buzzer beater by Dejounte Murray, 106-104. And this is fantastic for so many reasons. First of all, I was watching that game live, and the Hawks and the Magic, it was such a terribly played game for most of it. Both teams were turning the ball over. There were points where nobody was scoring a basket for long stretches. Nobody could get their offense set. It was just run, turn the ball over, run back the other way, turn the ball over, back the other way, a turnover, a missed shot, and there was no offensive cohesion. No one was running good offensive sets. It was just two teams playing down to a very low level and matching each other there. But we've had a lot of trade discussion about the Atlanta Hawks, and rightfully so. They're sitting near the bottom of the Eastern Conference. The only teams that they're ahead of are the real cellar dwellers in the East, your Pistons, um, your Washington Wizards, and not much else. So the Hawks are having a very disappointing season. And the Hawks made a big trade to get Dejounte Murray onto this team, and it hasn't panned out. So the Hawks are looking to potentially trade him again. And what happens? Dejounte Murray, while playing a game against the Magic that was not a good game, finds the ball in his hands. Paolo Banchero hit what was really an incredible three-pointer because the Magic didn't have anything going for them on their final possession, and they were down by 3. And Banchero basically walked up to the three-point line, and he's just like, okay, I'm tall enough to get this shot off, and I'm just going to take it because I'm the best guy on the team. And he swished it. So with about 8 seconds left, Dejounte Murray finds the ball in his hands, and Quinn Snyder's not calling a timeout. So he's just got to run down the court. He runs down the court, hectic, and he just hoists up a shot from the mid-range, and it goes in. Now, Dejounte Murray is not a great shooter. This is really his biggest issue because the Hawks dribble the ball around a lot. Outside of lobs, they don't do very many offensive sets with great passing and ball movement. It's really Trae Young dances around with the ball and shoots or gets in the lane and does a floater or gives off to the big man for a dunk. Or you have Dejounte Murray trying to do something similar. Where it works for Trae Young is that offensively, he's such a threat to score and he's such a threat to shoot, even when he's beyond the three-point line, that he's a tough defend. Whereas Dejounte Murray, he's bigger, he's taller, but he's much worse at shooting. And if you want to make a living in the NBA by playing street ball, let me try to pull a move on you, break your ankles, and score. If you want to try to do that dancing game, you need to be an incredible shooter because when they lock you up and you're not able to get inside on them, what are you going to do? You're either going to have to awkwardly pass off the ball to a teammate because you couldn't get it done, or you're going to have to hoist up a shot. So for Steph Curry, he can make that work because he can dance around, and his handles, first of all, are tighter than Dejounte Murray's handles, but also Curry only needs a fraction of space to get his shot off. And his shot is so good that it goes in a high percentage of the time no matter what type of shot he's taking. And Trae Young, while not as good as Curry, he's still able to do something similar to that in a way. But Dejounte Murray can't really do that because of his lack of shooting. But what you have is the Hawks talking about trading him. A reporter asking Dejounte Murray, would you be okay, essentially, I'm paraphrasing here, but essentially, would you be okay with a trade to the San Antonio Spurs? And Dejounte Murray replied that he would welcome that because Popovich is like a father to him. And then, right after that, he hits a buzzer beater in Atlanta for the win. Does Atlanta now go and say, hey, look at how great Dejounte Murray is hitting this buzzer beater? Bear in mind, it was in a game that was played very sloppy up until that buzzer beater. But the optics of the final shot are pretty good. So does Atlanta try to say, this is a premium talent we have here and try to command more on the trade market? Will anyone of the other 29 NBA teams be fooled by that? Because Dejounte Murray was not worth everything the Hawks gave up for him, and that's been proven. Several first-round picks, and who knows what else they gave up for him in exchange for what? They're near the bottom of the conference. And frankly, their team was better before they made the moves. When they were in the conference finals, when Herter was a part of this team, they were a better team, and it might have been smarter not to give up all of the first-round picks and take your young core that you're building. And since you can clearly see that you're on the right track by making it to an Eastern Conference Finals so early on, why don't you just ride it out for a few more seasons and build that young core that sticks together? That's very valuable. When the Warriors drafted Curry and Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, it took a couple of years until those guys got really good, and then they added ancillary pieces around them. But it's very powerful when you have the young core coming up into the league around the same time, learning to play with each other and getting an extended period of time to play with the same players that they came up with. That's how you really build a core unit in the NBA, is to get, if you can get that new crop of talent learning to play with each other and having years and years and years to do it, you may have yourself a championship team one day. But the Hawks were impatient. They pulled the trigger, they consolidated some of their pieces, and they went and got Dejounte Murray. And now Dejounte Murray's hitting a buzzer beater, and he's not even sure how to react afterwards. He ran awkwardly to the sideline and just turned and just kind of looked at everybody until his teammates mobbed him because he wasn't sure what to even do. Do these fans want me here? Do they want me gone? Am I on the move? But I just hit this buzzer beater and we won the game, so I feel like $1 million, but I don't because I know that the team wants to trade me. Very interesting situation out in Atlanta. Then we have the Celtics, of course, beating the Spurs handily by 19. The Knicks getting Jalen Brunson back. And as a team that's highly, highly dependent on him, boy, are they happy to have him back in that victory, a 15-point win over the Rockets. The Cavaliers moved to 6-0 in their last 6 games, 6-game win streak, crushing the Bucks, but the Bucks were playing without Giannis. So the Bucks' 3-game win streak goes down the toilet, and the Cavaliers now have a 6-game win streak. Donovan Mitchell playing well. And then we move on to the Raptors beating the Heat. The Heat are just such a confusing team. They defy all logic of how you can predict what they're going to do. They win close games against teams that you think they should blow out. They lose to teams that you think they should beat. And then they win games that you would think would be close, tight games, and they win them handily. Who can really predict what's going to ever happen on a nightly basis with the Heat? Raptors getting a nice victory. The Pelicans beat the Hornets by 20 points with LaMelo Ball's $250 million contract coming up again in the loss. The Lakers beating the Mavericks pretty handily. Luka Doncic returned for the Mavericks in this game. And sometimes it's hard to integrate someone back in so quickly. Lakers getting another much-needed victory, make that 2 in a row for them. And then, unfortunately, we had the Warriors-Jazz game postponed due to literally a coach and an assistant coach passing away. It's a little reminiscent of the DeMar Hamlin situation when the Buffalo Bills had to postpone their game, although that happened in the middle of the game. But the saving grace of that game was that DeMar Hamlin survived. They were able to get him the medical care he needed, and DeMar Hamlin's alive today. Whereas this game was postponed and the coach is gone. Really horrifying stuff, and definitely worthy of having the game postponed, that's for sure. We can just wish the best for him and his family. Yeah. But we move on to the final game of the night, which is the Trailblazers against the Nets, and the Trailblazers getting a 2-point victory over the Nets. You had an interesting story come out in the Trailblazers camp where DeAndre Ayton had missed the last several games due to injury. And supposedly DeAndre Ayton was available for this game. So why didn't he play? DeAndre Ayton was stuck in his house, and the excuse is he couldn't find a way from his hometown that he's living in to the stadium because of ice. Everything was too icy for him to get to the stadium. Now, this is a really bizarre excuse for not making it to an NBA game. And it could be that it's legitimate. I'm not saying it's not. But when was the last time you heard anyone not make it to the stadium because of ice in today's day and age? When has this ever happened? And could you imagine a scenario where Steph Curry couldn't make it to the game because there was too much ice in the town that he's living in? That would never happen. The Warriors would make sure he's at that game. So, in my mind, either DeAndre Ayton didn't try hard enough to make it to the game. He didn't try walking a couple of miles and then getting a ride. He didn't really want to play, and he was okay sitting out. Or the Trailblazers were totally fine for him to sit out again. It's not like DeAndre Ayton's added anything to their team. So Ayton doesn't care. Portland doesn't care. Okay, maybe that's a great match. I actually asked ChatGPT why was George Gervin called the Iceman? A lot of our younger listeners might not be aware of who George Gervin was, but George Gervin was one of the top players in the NBA for the San Antonio Spurs during his time. And here's what ChatGPT has to say. George Gervin earned the nickname the Iceman due to his calm and cool demeanor on the basketball court, especially in high-pressure situations. Known for his smooth and effortless playing style, Gervin displayed a remarkable ability to maintain composure and deliver exceptional performances, earning him the fitting moniker, the Iceman. And now you have DeAndre Ayton trying to bring back the title, the nickname of the Iceman. So, I asked ChatGPT, would it make sense to give DeAndre Ayton the nickname of George Gervin, the Iceman? And ChatGPT aptly responded, while nicknames are subjective, it might not make sense to give DeAndre the nickname the Iceman because nicknames capture a player's unique qualities or style. If Ayton doesn't exhibit a similar calm and cool demeanor reminiscent of George Gervin, it may not align well. It's usually more fitting to come up with a nickname that reflects Ayton's distinct attributes and skills on the court. But I asked ChatGPT a follow-up question. Suppose that DeAndre Ayton was in the news for missing an NBA game due to severe icy conditions near his home and couldn't make it to the arena. And ChatGPT responded it could be a playful and context-specific nickname if DeAndre Ayton missed a game due to icy conditions. And there you have it. That's enough for me. DeAndre Ayton trying to bring back the moniker of the Iceman. Not for good reasons, but he's so icy and cool that he really doesn't mind missing NBA games. That's one thing we can definitely learn from DeAndre Ayton is his lack of care is what makes him cool. He's so calm that he doesn't even mind if you pass him the ball. He doesn't mind sitting on the sidelines as long as he's cashing his check, and he doesn't mind staying home. One of the other great storylines that we had from the season so far is Mike Brown getting irate during one of the Sacramento Kings games and getting ejected for berating the referees, where Brown was claiming that the refs were calling the game inconsistently for the other team, calling fouls one way, and then for his Sacramento Kings calling fouls differently. Then Mike Brown, after getting kicked out of the game, brought a laptop to the post-game press conference, and he went through footage on his laptop showing the calls that he was talking about, the calls made for one team and then the calls made for his team that weren't consistent in his mind. And I love this. I love this because the refereeing in the NBA is one of the biggest issues in the NBA right now, is the inconsistent refereeing and also the constant stopping the game for replays. And the fact that you now have a coach's challenge where it's not really a coach's challenge. It's really a challenge that the video team of the given team signals to the coach when you should challenge a play. So it really doesn't add an exciting element of, oh, which coach is good at challenges. It's just like, okay, which team's assistants and video people can look at the footage quickly enough and quickly pull up the replay and say, oh, yeah, you should challenge that. And then they give the signal to the coach and the coach challenges it. Or it just becomes a game of, oh, the player says that that you should challenge. So make the challenge. And do you trust your player enough that he's using that he's really thought it through and he's sure that it's really, your team's basketball and the referee's made a mistake, or is he caught up in the moment, which is very easy to do as an NBA player. You're in the middle of a heated game. There's hands flying all over the place. The ball bounces in weird directions. It's hard to tell if you're the player. That's why they have referees. So the refereeing is a big point of contention, and by Mike Brown storming off the court, he is bringing attention to that. And then he doubled down in the post-game press conference where he brought his laptop and he starts reviewing footage and showing you, this is what I'm talking about. In my mind, this is fantastic because he's shedding light on something which needs fixing. The problem is the NBA came out and fined him $50,000. $50,000 is a pretty hefty sum to fine a coach. And if I'm taking the NBA at face value, they're saying, stop this. We don't want this. Any coach who wants to try and let us know about the referee situation, you're going to get slapped with a hefty sum. And the only other coach to really do this season was Steve Kerr, where the Warriors played the Nuggets, and and Steve Kerr was basically saying that the Nuggets are playing a disgusting brand of basketball where they know how to play the referees into calling fouls. So essentially they're playing for the foul call and they're not playing for the actual basket. They're just playing for the right to go to the line and shoot 2 free throws. I don't believe Kerr got fined because he did everything in the postgame. So maybe that's the strategy for Mike Brown from here on out is keep on talking in the postgame. And maybe other coaches will talk as well. I would love that. I would love to see the NBA put a massive focus on resolving the referee issue and getting consistent reffing. We also have a trade. So we have the stars of the NBA trade season so far have been the Toronto Raptors. They already made a trade getting Barrett and Quickly in exchange for OG Anunoby. They also sent Precious Achua in that trade to the Knicks. And now the Raptors made another trade, a trade with the Pacers. They sent Pascal Siakam. This was a long time coming. They sent Pascal Siakam, who was a part of their championship team with Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet, and really the last really good player from that team to still be with the Toronto Raptors. And now he's gone. They shipped him out. And in exchange for sending Siakam to the Pacers, the Raptors got back Bruce Brown and a couple of lesser known players and a couple of first round picks in 2024. 3 of them. We're not going to go with whose picks they were. It's confusing. Basically, 3 first round picks. Let's just keep it simple. And Bruce Brown and a couple of other pieces. What the Raptors have done that's pretty fascinating is while they traded good players in OG and Siakam, they also got back good players. RJ Barrett is a good player. How good? It's hard to say. He played well last night, scoring 26 points in the victory. How good? It's hard to say, though. Emmanuel Quickly is a good player. A lot of Knicks fans really loved Emmanuel Quickly. And now getting Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown was a guy who was very impactful for the Denver Nuggets, and then he came off winning the championship with Denver and signed a lucrative contract. And there were a lot of teams competing to sign him. So the Raptors trade out a couple of their good players, but they also get back 3 good players, and they also get back 3 first-round picks. So they've managed to keep their team in a place where they can win and at least compete. Not with the top of the league, but they can compete for a play-in. And they also bolstered their draft stock, and now they can go out and draft more young talent to add to the young talent that they just brought in. So a very interesting strategy by the Raptors, and I think all in all, a job well done. Because if you told me that they were trading 2 of their best players, Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby, I would think it's the tankathon. How many games can we lose from here out? But that's not really what it is. Adding Bruce Brown, RJ Barrett, and Emmanuel Quickly, those are good pieces. And if you add the 3 draft picks to it, they have to be really happy with the job that they've done. We'll move around the league quickly. We'll look at what we have in store for tonight. We've got 5 games of hoops tonight. We have the Bulls playing the Raptors. Not too much of an interesting game. We have the Wizards going against the Knicks in a game that the Knicks have to win. It's the Wizards. I mean, you have to beat the Wizards. Then you have the Thunder playing the Jazz, and which should be a great game because the Thunder just lost a couple of games in a row. Not something that they've done very much this season. And then the Utah Jazz are the hottest team in the NBA right now at 9-1 in their last 10. Cleveland is coming up too with 6 wins in a row, but I think 9-1. You still give it to the Jazz. Jazz playing tonight. We'll see if they can extend it to a 10-1 against one of the premier teams in the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then we have the Pacers facing off against the Kings in what should be a good action. It's always interesting when you have players facing their former teams. Domantas Sabonis was a Pacer and now obviously a King. And you have Buddy Hield, a King, now a Pacer. So that game should be interesting. And then you have the Grizzlies going against the Timberwolves. The Grizzlies have got some good production off of their rookies who are now playing because John Morant and Desmond Bane are gone for the season. Well, John Morant is gone for the season. Desmond Bane is just gone for now. I stand corrected. But are they going to be able to beat the Timberwolves? Probably not. Probably not. Now, you can send your questions and comments into NBAV at nbavenue@yahoo.com. So that's NBAVENUE at yahoo.com. And I believe we do have a question that was sent into the show. Here we go. Eli says, you have to stop insulting Joel Embiid. He is this year's MVP, no question. I don't know if I even have a problem with that. He could be the season's MVP. He was the MVP last year. But the key here is that it's the regular season. And while MVP accolades are super helpful when you look back at someone's career, there's one thing that's more helpful than that, and that's NBA championships. And until Joel Embiid can win an NBA championship, and for him, it's even worse, he needs to make it to an NBA championship. Until he does that, he's never going to go down as an all-time great. He can go down as an MVP of the league, but there's going to be a class of players that he's not going to be welcomed into unless he can make it to championships and win championships. And that's what's yet to be determined with him. So I appreciate the question. You can find us on social media, on Twitter at NBAV, on Facebook. And we're going to wrap it up, and we'll catch you on the next one.